What if I told you that the most beautiful part of your garden might be hiding in your trash? Old boots, forgotten drawers, even rusted bed frames. They're not waste. They're waiting to become something poetic, something alive. Welcome to Arkan Aesthetic Studio, where ordinary things get a second chance, and creativity finds its roots in the most unexpected places. In this video, we're exploring unique DIY recycle and upcycling garden decor ideas. Not just to inspire, but to help you build beauty with your own two hands. You'll find timestamps to guide your journey. Choose what you need, skip what you don't. And if something sparks a question or idea, leave a comment below. I'll explain more in the community tab, just for you. And just so you know, every image, every design here is simply an idea, a spark, a beginning. If something resonates with you, take it, bend it, make it your own. Use what you already have. Embrace imperfections. Let your creativity lead the way. This isn't about perfection. It's about creating something meaningful with what you've got. One, Spring Bloom Vertical Garden. A story of forgotten things made sacred again. There are objects that seem to carry silence. Old spring mattresses, rusted frames, forgotten coils, left to lean against the walls of storage rooms, or worse, tossed aside by curbsides as if they'd never served anyone. But what if we paused? What if we saw not the decay, but the shape of possibility? This garden begins not with seeds, but with a second glance. What once held sleep now holds life, upright, visible, and vibrant. Wires that used to bear the weight of bodies now cradle pots of basil, thyme, marigold, and petunia. Their roots reach down into terracotta and cloth and crumbled soil tucked into rusted arms, unaware that this was never meant to be a garden, and yet it is. Sunlight touches each coil differently. Some glint silver where the paint has peeled. Others bloom fire orange against red brick, bursting through with ivy and stubborn vines that refuse to stay small. It's an orchestra of reuse, the rhythm of decay reworked into the melody of new beginnings. There is no symmetry here, no perfect spacing, only instinct and love and the joy of doing it anyway. Some coils are crooked, some flowers grow wild and uneven. There's dirt on the cement, chips in the paint, and tools left nearby. But nothing about this feels broken. In fact, the imperfection is what makes it honest. And this honesty invites you in, not as a viewer, but as a maker. Start with what you have. A wall, a frame, a few pots, some rope, a belief that you don't need to buy beauty. You can build it, grow it, piece it together from parts of your life that were once sleeping. Because the truth is, nothing is ever truly past its purpose. It's just waiting to be repurposed. So take that mattress spring leaning in your garage. Let it rise again, not in the dark, but in the light. Not for sleep, but for bloom. And let your garden, like your creativity, refuse to be boxed in. Two, Chain Petal Wall Decor. Some gardens whisper, others clang with history. Here, among the vines and picket fences, flowers bloom from the most unlikely roots, gears, chains, bolts. Their past lives echo with motion and grease. But now, they stand still, catching light instead of wind, color instead of speed. A bicycle chain that once spun for miles now spirals tightly into the heart of a rose. Rust clings to the links like memory, never hidden, only embraced. The paint on the petals, cobalt, saffron, and jade, is chipped in places, but more alive because of it. It tells the truth. This wasn't born in a factory. This was forged in care. Set against rough wooden fences and chalk-white walls, each flower becomes a quiet rebellion. A statement that beauty doesn't need to be new, it just needs to be noticed. You can feel the warmth of the sun on the metal. You can almost hear the bees pause, confused but intrigued, hovering for just a moment before moving on. There's no symmetry here, no factory-made curve. Just deliberate imperfection, the soul of something handmade. The flowers don't move in the wind, but the vines weaving through them do, gently reclaiming the man-made, softening steel with leaf and tendril. And maybe that's the message. That nature doesn't mind what we've used. It only asks that we reuse it with respect. If your hands are still, let them build. Find the old chain in the shed. Paint it, twist it, give it a center. Weld petals from scraps. Mount them beside real blooms or let them bloom in their own patch of fence. Because in a world that rushes, what a beautiful thing it is to make something pause. Three, color wheel garden backdrop. Some gardens grow from the ground up, others from the fence in. Here, in a corner that might once have been bare and overlooked, bicycle wheels. Once racing down streets, carrying laughter, errands, and stories, now rest still, side by side. Their purpose has shifted, their energy redirected. No longer built to move, they now exist to stop you in your tracks. Coated in a kaleidoscope of pastel pinks, robin egg blues, sunny yellows, and tangerine, these recycled rims are a tribute to both motion and stillness. Each one a quiet memory with spokes that catch the sunlight just enough to throw fine shadows onto the wood or brick behind them. Some are scratched, others flake with chipped paint. One or two still bear the ghost of rust, and yet none of them pretend to be perfect. That's part of the charm. They don't need to be pristine to bring joy, just seen. Vines wind lazily through the metal, as if nature itself approves of the display and has chosen to take part. A few leaves cling to the spokes, a cobweb dances in the breeze. It's a wall, yes, but it's also a story told in circles. And perhaps that's what makes this project so deeply human. It's simple, accessible, and doesn't demand precision. You don't need a studio or expensive tools. Just some wheels once forgotten, a few cans of paint, a drill, and a little patience. Let your hands guide, not measure. Let your eyes pick the color, not the rulebook. Let the layout feel like music, not mathematics. Because not all gardens are meant to bloom in soil. Some bloom on fences. Some bloom in color. Some bloom in you, the maker, the mender, the one who sees beauty in what spins but no longer rolls. So gather the things that have stopped moving. Give them a new reason to stay. And just like that, a fence becomes a canvas. And your garden becomes a gallery. Four, denim bloom hanging pots. In the quiet corners of everyday life, where the sun kisses wood grain and the breeze flutters between fence slats, there lies a canvas waiting to bloom. Not a blank one, no, this canvas already carries stories. Rust, wrinkles, age, and use. And yet, with the tender touch of creativity, it finds new life. Old mattress springs, once creaking beneath dreams, now cradle life again. Not the kind of rest we knew, but growth, renewal. Coils now curve around fresh herbs and trailing flowers, creating vertical gardens that whisper of seasons past and seeds just sown. No glamour here, only honesty. Rusted textures embrace the soft brilliance of marigolds and petunias, rooted in reclaimed purpose. Their colors spill with joy across bricks and wooden walls, kissed by sunlight, unapologetically wild. Elsewhere, what once rode the streets, the bicycle, offers its wheels once more, now not for motion, but for expression. Painted in sherbet hues or bold primaries, these rims swirl into stories across garden fences and brick facades. Spirals of spokes intersect with climbing vines, as nature and nostalgia hold hands. The imperfections, chipped paint, dust, the glint of steel, only make the moment feel more real, like a childhood memory rediscovered. And in the hands of those who see differently, even denim sings. Jeans that walked 1,000 miles become vessels for blooming life. Hung with rope or slung over railings, these blue-legged pots burst with laughter-colored flowers. Red geraniums, purple petunias, marigolds glowing like little suns. The fabric, worn and frayed, mirrors the ruggedness of the earth itself. Each pocket cradles a promise, each stitch echoes resilience. Among these walls and fences, no object is obsolete. Each has simply paused, waiting for someone to see what it could still become. These aren't just decorations, they're invitations. To notice, to care, to imagine, to gather the forgotten and give it rhythm again. So if your hands itch to create, let them. Let your garden bloom with more than plants. Let it bloom with stories. Let it be a place where past and present are woven with jute and rust, color and courage. A place where nothing is wasted and everything, somehow, still belongs. Five, Melody of Cutlery Wind Charm. Sometimes, beauty sprouts not from what is bought, but from what is rediscovered, given a second life under open skies, kissed by sun, rain, and the tender hands of those who see art in the abandoned. In the quiet corner of a backyard, where walls once sat bare, rusted mattress springs now bloom with color. Old coils, once coiled in dreams of sleep, now hold bright petunias and creeping herbs. Each flower cradled in these time-worn spirals tells a story of resilience, of color breaking free from decay. The light that touches them is real, not filtered. It glows off rust, dances through terracotta, and spills across concrete in a way only nature can script. This isn't just gardening. It's reclamation with roots. A few steps away, steel petals unfurl on fences and walls, forged not in fire, but in patience. Bicycle chains once wrapped around spokes now twist into spirals, mimicking roses and sunflowers. Painted in turquoise, scarlet, daffodil yellow, these blooms never wilt. You can still see the grease in the crevices, a reminder of motion once had. But now they stand still, proud, adorning weathered wood like mechanical wildflowers. Vines sneak through their frames, softening their boldness with a whisper of green. Then, you come upon a wheel wall, not for turning, but for delight. Bike rims of every size, dipped in hues of sorbet pink, baby blue, and citrus orange, hang in layered chaos. They catch the breeze like dream catchers and echo color through the garden's soul. Some show rust, others shine new, but together, they form a mural of movement stilled, a celebration of geometry, shade, and playful symmetry. The garden fence becomes a gallery, a playful reminder that even discarded cycles can spin joy. A smile tugs as you pass a row of jeans. Yes, jeans, repurposed with charm and laughter. Hanging from fences, looped over rails, these denim forms now carry life in their pockets. Geraniums, pansies, trailing vines peek from waistbands and seams. A single pant leg becomes a cradle for marigolds, swinging softly in the wind. Each piece of denim tells a story of the body that once wore it, now cradling blooms instead of keys or coins. It's whimsical, yes, but also tender, a true embrace of reuse without losing the human touch. And then the breeze sings, softly, not loud, not urgent, but enough to pause you. The wind chime, crafted from old forks, bent spoons, and forgotten knives, sways with grace. Suspended from driftwood or branches, the cutlery clicks and tinkles in a delicate chorus. Some are polished, others dulled by time. Painted handles in coral and lime sway beside unpainted silver that glints like morning dew. The song they make is not perfect, but it is pure, a melody made not for applause, but for peace. Each of these creations is a gentle rebellion against waste. A reminder that beauty is often overlooked in the ordinary. They whisper, not shout, and in that hush, they invite us to see differently, to touch the past, reshape it, and let it bloom once more, on fences, in corners, in breezes. So the next time you pass something broken, rusted, or worn, perhaps don't throw it away. Instead, imagine what it might become, if only given the light, the soil, and a little of your time. Six, floral fabric pot wraps. In a quiet corner of the world, creativity blooms not from new things, but from the forgotten, the rusted, the worn, the gently used. These gardens are more than green spaces. They are sanctuaries of memory and renewal. Imagine a once-forgotten spring mattress, the kind that once cradled sleep, now leaning proudly against a sunlit fence. It hums with life. Bright petunias and herbs burst from its coils, their roots tangled with time and rust. It's not just a garden wall. It's a song of rebirth, where decay meets color and purpose. Each terracotta pot snugly fitted between metal curls tells a story of second chances, of something deemed useless becoming breathtaking. A few steps away, a wooden fence turns into a whimsical display of kinetic beauty. Bicycle rims, some neon, some pastel, others worn by years of adventure, are arranged like blooming mandalas. They don't spin anymore, but they move us in a different way. Vines sneak through their spokes, merging nature's slow grace with the mechanics of motion, and under the sunlight, the colors dance with childhood joy. And then there are the chains. Oh, the chains, gears, links, and sprockets, shaped lovingly into steel blossoms. Painted sunflowers beside rust-kissed roses, each petal forged by human hands from what was once the machinery of travel. It's hard not to smile as ivy creeps between the petals, softening their industrial edges with green tenderness. As you wander further, denim blooms where you'd least expect. Old jeans, ripped, frayed, or long outgrown, dangle along railings and fences, now stuffed with soil and laughter. From their pockets spill marigolds and violets, trailing vines and tiny herbs. Their blue fabric, faded by seasons and stories, brings an unexpected coziness to the outdoor space, as if the garden itself were getting dressed for spring. In the wind, soft notes sing, not from fancy chimes bought at a store, but from spoons and forks once clinked around family tables. Suspended from branches or driftwood, they create melodies only the breeze can read. Their sounds are imperfect, tender. The clatter of old silverware becomes the voice of your backyard, whispering reminders that beauty lies in the ordinary. At ground level, simple terracotta pots wear vintage pillowcases like bonnets. Polka dots, roses, faded florals, each wrap a nod to comfort and home. Some are tied with twine, some bunched casually. Their seams are crooked, the fabric slightly weathered, and yet that's what makes them so charming. These aren't showroom pieces. They are crafted with care, with hands that cherish imperfection. And through it all, the chimes, the denim, the metal, the fabric, runs a single thread. The love of making something out of nothing. Of choosing reuse not just for sustainability, but for soul. Every crack in the pot, every threadbare patch, every clink of spoon on spoon, it all tells a story. So step outside. Look around. That broken thing you nearly threw away? It might just be your garden's next masterpiece. Seven. Glow Grid Kitchen Lantern. As the sun dips below the horizon and the garden exhales a quiet sigh, there's a kind of magic that lingers, woven not from expensive decor or flawless design, but from memory, care, and a dash of old-world ingenuity. Here, tucked in the corners of humble patios and blooming balconies, ordinary objects live a second life with grace. Mattress springs, once pressed into silence beneath our sleep, now cradle bursts of marigolds and petunias in defiant bloom. Their rusting coils wrap around hope, transforming into vertical gardens that stretch upward with herbs, vines, and purpose. Across the fence, bicycle parts speak in floral tongues. Worn gears, old chains, and painted rims come together in a poetic dance. Sunflowers forged from sprockets, daisies imagined from spokes. It's mechanical, yes, but never cold. The colors, sunshine yellow, deep coral, cobalt blue, sing against the weathered wood, a hymn of color born from rust. And then there are denim blooms, rebellious, whimsical, and wonderfully grounded. Old jeans dangle like scarecrows turned gardeners, their pockets now homes for geraniums, basil, and pansies. Fabric creases catch the light, threads fray with stories, and the worn knees of each pair cradle green shoots like proud, dirt-streaked palms. In the breeze, wind chimes crafted from mismatched forks and bent spoons clink like laughter. Tied with twine, hanging from driftwood and branches, they catch both the wind and the imagination. Their soft notes echo across pergolas and patios, notes that remind us that silence can be broken gently, musically. Terracotta pots, once plain and utilitarian, now wear dresses of floral pillowcases. No two wraps are alike. Some are cinched with string, others stretch loosely, but all bear the charm of imperfection. Each one speaks of softness, of kitchen linens once used and loved, now returned to the soil in full bloom. As twilight settles in, colanders from forgotten kitchen drawers glow anew, transformed into lanterns that scatter constellations of light across wooden tables and grassy floors. Their perforated skins, marked by age and flame, breathe warmth into the night. Painted sky blue, vintage cream, or left in raw stainless steel, they hang like quiet guardians of a garden that thrives in reuse. This is not just a garden, it's a living memory quilt, stitched with upcycled treasures and a heart that refuses to throw beauty away. In every creak of chain, every flower-stuffed pocket, and every light-dappled surface, there is a story. Not of waste, but of wonder. And maybe, just maybe, it reminds us Nothing is ever truly old if it can still make something grow. Eight, framed garden view art. In a quiet garden where the sun tiptoes through leaves and the wind hums a tune only flowers understand, creativity blooms, not just from seeds, but from second chances. Forgotten things are reawakened here, gently transformed into vessels of beauty, function, and story. A rusted spring mattress once destined for the landfill now stands proudly as a vertical garden wall, its coils cradling pots of herbs and petals like a grandmother's gentle embrace. Petunias spill out in brilliant shades, whispering joy to the morning sun, while the wire, aged and imperfect, becomes part of the art, not just the structure. On another wall, marigolds glow from the hollow frame of an old bed, fluttering in golden rhythm with ivy that dances its way through every gap. The past and present hold hands in this vertical dreamscape. Wander further and you'll find metal reborn. Bicycle chains, stiff with time, are curled and coaxed into floral sculptures. Some hang on fences like wallflowers that finally found their voice, their petals painted in cheerful tones: turquoise, sunflower yellow, scarlet. Others remain raw and rusted, holding their industrial soul, but reshaped into roses that never wilt. It's gritty, it's delicate, it's a celebration of contradiction. And there, spinning softly in the breeze, a kaleidoscope of old bicycle wheels clings to fences and walls. Their spokes catch sunlight and shadow alike. They're painted in pastel blues, fire orange, lavender dreams, a kinetic art installation where time stands still. Each wheel tells its own story, yet together they form a gallery of movement and memory. Among these colorful expressions, denim begins to bloom. Faded jeans, once worn thin by footsteps and years, are now filled with soil and life. Pockets hold marigolds like tucked-away secrets. Straps become hangers, and knees torn from play become pockets for petunias. No two planters look the same, just like the lives that wore them. The softness of cotton meets the resilience of green. Tucked between the laughter of flowers and the rustle of leaves, gentle chimes begin to sing. Forks, spoons, and knives once clinked on porcelain are now strung together as wind melodies. Some hang simply from twigs, others from branches or pergolas, swaying with grace. They don't need to be perfect to be music. They just need the wind and a place to belong. Below them, terracotta pots wear dresses of pillowcases, soft floral fabrics tied with twine, gently puckered at the seams. Roses and herbs peek out from above, their roots tucked into old fabric that smells faintly of laundry day. Every pot, wrapped in warmth, carries not just flowers, but fragments of domestic joy. As twilight falls, light spills softly through dotted shadows. Old kitchen colanders, once used to drain pasta or rinse fruit, now cradle light bulbs like fireflies caught mid-glow. Perforated metal scatters light in constellations across tables and trees. Some are brushed in teal or buttercup yellow, while others are left raw, just steel and light, hanging quietly in the dusk. It's a kind of magic you don't buy, but make. And finally, as if framing this entire dream, vintage windows and doors rest quietly among the blooms. Their glass panes reflect roses and hydrangeas as if painting nature itself. The chipped paint, the vines curling through open frames, the quiet leaning of a forgotten door, all remind us that beauty doesn't require perfection. It just needs presence. This is not just a garden. It's a living gallery, a place where every clink, crack, and crease tells a story worth hearing. It invites you not just to admire, but to begin, with your own hands, your own forgotten things, and your own patch of earth waiting to be made into something meaningful. What might you bring back to life in your garden? Nine, broken beauty tile pathway. Imagine walking through a garden not just filled with flowers, but layered with stories, fragments of yesterday reborn as beauty today. That's the quiet poetry of DIY recycled garden decor. It's not just about saving the earth. It's about reviving its charm with your own two hands. In a tucked-away corner, an old mattress spring stands tall, once forgotten, now a living canvas of color. Petunias peek from its rusty coils, a wild symphony of fuchsia and violet kissed by morning light. The frame's weathered metal catches the sun just right, casting shadows on the wooden fence behind it. It's imperfect, and that's what makes it breathtaking. Not far from this bloom wall, a fence becomes a playground for metal and imagination. Bicycle chains, stubborn and strong, are reshaped into petals and swirls, painted in hues of sunflower yellow, cobalt blue, and bold red. Real vines creep between the spokes, gently blurring the line between machine and nature. Each flower tells a tale of movement now paused, of wheels that no longer turn but still carry wonder. Then your gaze shifts, and it dances along a wall where colorful bicycle wheels spin no more, yet breathe life into the garden in a different way. Arranged in soft pastels or vibrant rainbow circles, they become mandalas against wood and brick. Each one is a window into playfulness, proving that art doesn't need a canvas when the garden is your gallery. Jeans, once walked through adventures, now cradle life in their pockets. Hanging on fences and rails, their faded denim holds bright blooms, marigolds, petunias, trailing ivy. There's something whimsical, almost childlike, about a garden that wears pants. They flutter in the breeze like scarecrows turned gentle, their frayed hems whispering stories of wear and care. Above them, a melody sways with the wind. Spoons, forks, and old cutlery, bent, polished, or left rusted, clink like soft chimes in the air. Hung from branches and beams, they sing without effort, carried by every breeze. The sound is subtle, not attention-seeking, but grounding, like the voice of the garden itself. Elsewhere, clay pots wear dresses, floral fabrics from forgotten pillowcases wrapped snugly around their curves. Some are cinched with twine, others hang loose and joyful. They line up on sun-warmed benches, their colors blooming as bright as the flowers they hold. A simple act of dressing a pot becomes a daily love letter to beauty. As dusk arrives, lanterns made from old colanders begin to glow. What once drained pasta now spills light in speckled constellations. Painted in soft yellows and bold blues, each lamp casts starry shadows on tabletops and fences. They don't just light the evening, they enchant it. And just when you think you've seen it all, you stumble on a window to nowhere, an old frame leaning in the grass or mounted on a fence. No glass, no function, just a view. Through its panes, you see roses and hydrangeas as if framed by intention. It transforms chaos into composition. The garden becomes art, simply by being seen. Underfoot, the pathway tells its own story. Broken tiles and old ceramics, mismatched, sharp, joyful, form mosaics that twist and dance across the soil. Some pieces still show floral prints, others shimmer with glaze. Each step is a memory, a color, a texture brought together to lead the way forward. This isn't just decor. It's healing, quiet resistance. It's hands in the dirt and eyes on the sky. And you, yes, you, can do it too. Not perfectly, not professionally, but with heart. Because a garden isn't just a place. It's a conversation. Between you, the earth, and everything you've ever loved enough not to throw away. Reflective Garden Oasis. Some mirrors are meant for more than reflections. They've seen faces lean close with sleepy eyes, heard the hum of morning routines and silent secrets whispered in passing. But when walls are torn down or decor shifts with the season's tide, these mirrors are often left behind. Speckled, scratched, their purpose presumed complete. Yet here, in the hush of a garden, they find themselves again. A mirror leans against a sun-warmed stone wall, its once elegant frame now worn and peeling, imperfect, yes, but gently so. Lavender leans in, unafraid of its dusty glass. Foxgloves stretch beside it like dancers in mid-bow. There is no vanity here. Only the grace of light bouncing back toward what grows, making the lavender a little more lavender, the shadows a little softer, and the garden feel just a bit deeper than it is. Further down a fence, another mirror hangs, this one cradled in gold. Not the kind of gold that shouts, but the kind that holds history. Roses curve and curl around its edges, reflected in duplicate. The sky slips into the frame too, creating a window where there is none, as if the garden opens into another garden, beyond reach but not imagination. And near the marigolds, where petals fall like tiny suns, a humble square of glass set in a weather-beaten wooden frame rests low in the flower bed. It doesn't shout for attention. It simply multiplies what is already beautiful. The zinnias seem to smile at themselves, shyly proud of their color. The reflection becomes part of the garden, a secret echo, a quiet celebration. These aren't just decorations. They're reminders. That space can be bent. That light can be borrowed. That even a single pane of glass, when given time and intention, can expand the world. So if you find a mirror with a cracked edge, don't discard it. Wipe it down. Set it in the shade. Let it catch the garden in its arms. Because reflection isn't just for faces. It's for places, too. For corners that want to feel more open, for flowers that deserve to be seen twice, and for the soul that longs to create beauty not by adding more, but by seeing what's already there in double. Let your mirror tell a new story, not of what's behind you, but what grows around you. Crate Comfort Garden Lounge. There's a quiet kind of magic in the way forgotten things can find new purpose under sunlight. In a cozy garden corner, where petals stretch lazily toward the sky, a lounge made entirely of weathered crates and humble pallets becomes a gentle invitation to pause, to sit, to simply breathe. The crates, once used to carry goods across borders and seasons, now cradle soft cushions and blooming conversations. There would bears marks of journeys past, knots, faint stamps, and splintered edges that tell stories in their grain. Here, nothing is perfect. And that's exactly the point. Painted in soft pastels or left in their natural tones, the seating doesn't shout, it whispers. The blush of petal pink, the hush of mint green, or the sun-washed hues of turquoise and yellow, each shade echoing the surrounding blooms. The cushions, sometimes patterned, sometimes plain, are gently slouched from use. A blanket lies folded over the armrest, ready to wrap around your shoulders when the evening chill tiptoes in. It's simple to create. Just gather crates or pallets, wood that would otherwise be forgotten. Sand them lightly, stack them securely, and paint only if you wish. Add thick cushions, some plump pillows, maybe a throw you've loved too long to let go. Let the wear show. Let it feel lived in. Place a potted daisy nearby. Maybe a book. Maybe nothing at all. Because in this lounge, time slows. The breeze carries lavender and laughter. And your garden becomes a space not only to grow, but to rest. Drum bloom water bowl. There is something gently magical about water in a garden. It slows time, it mirrors the sky, and with just a little creativity, even the most industrial of items, like an old oil drum, can be transformed into a gentle sanctuary. In the first image, we meet a green barrel that has been lovingly filled with clear, sunlit water. Its curved rim is worn and honest, dotted with rust and a story. Beneath the surface, rounded pebbles rest like river memories, while dragonflies flit above and a cheerful frog figurine keeps watch. A small solar fountain bobs at the center, bubbling quietly, a reminder that serenity doesn't have to be complex, only thoughtful. A few steps further into the garden, a soft teal drum nestles among bricks and mulch. Tall papyrus plants rise like green flames, swaying gently with the breeze. Here, the pond becomes a living sculpture. Cloud reflections ripple on the water's surface, shifting with every breath of wind. This setup asks very little, yet offers so much. A habitat for beneficial insects, a haven for frogs, and a visual anchor in the landscape. And then, the bluest of blues. In the final image, a cobalt drum bursts into bloom, crowned by floating lily pads and one perfect water lily. Golden fish dart beneath, flashing like living jewels in the sun. The painted surface is chipped and scratched, but those imperfections are part of its beauty. A soulful whisper that this piece has been repurposed, reclaimed, and reborn. These mini water bowls do not require vast spaces or expert hands. Just a willingness to see potential where others see scrap. A drum becomes a pond. A garden becomes a sanctuary. And every reflection on the surface becomes a quiet invitation to pause, to breathe, and to imagine what else might bloom when we choose to create with care. Tea time plant nook. There's something utterly comforting about the delicate clink of porcelain, even more so when it's filled not with tea, but life. In a quiet nook of the garden, sunlight pours across a weathered shelf where forgotten china finds new purpose. Teacups once cherished in parlors now cradle small succulents, their roots nestled in soil rather than stories. Hairline cracks along the rims catch the golden hour light, like gentle reminders of resilience and repurpose. A pastel teacup sits softly on a moss-covered ledge, dainty daisies blooming from within, their petals stretching toward the morning sun. There's a chipped handle, a bit of worn glaze, and a spill of earth that speaks of imperfect beauty. Ants trail nearby, weaving their way around its base, as if curious about this tiny, enchanted world that sprung from porcelain petals. Further back, a teapot, once the centerpiece of an afternoon ritual, now overflows with violet alyssum, its lid resting beside it like a secret untold. Ivy climbs playfully around the spout. The crate it rests on carries the gentle wear of age. Scratches, splinters, and the occasional rust mark, each a silent witness to time and transformation. It's in these small gestures, in reusing what was once thought to be too fragile or too old, that we uncover a softer, more thoughtful rhythm to garden living. A teacup needn't pour to be useful. A crack doesn't mark the end of beauty. Instead, it opens a new chapter. So if you find a lone teacup on a dusty shelf, or a teapot missing its mate, consider this. With a touch of soil, a seedling, and a quiet afternoon, you could craft a corner of your garden where memory and bloom sip gently from the same delicate rim. Would you like me to create the full compilation storytelling for all 13 DIY upcycling garden decor categories you've uploaded so far? (14) Rustic Steps Plant Shelf. In a quiet corner of the garden, where the morning breeze still carries traces of dew, an old wooden ladder finds new life. Once used to reach tall places, it now invites our gaze to move gently upward, step by step, into a celebration of green, bloom, and earthy imperfection. The ladder leans with age, paint peeling like memories fading softly into stories. But rather than hiding its wear, it wears it proudly, each mark a whisper of purpose reborn. On its steps rest humble clay pots, some chipped, others moss-kissed, holding bursts of lavender, the soft leaves of basil, and marigolds glowing like golden laughter. There is nothing fussy about this scene. A little soil is spilled where hands once worked without care for tidiness. A watering can leans nearby, not placed, but simply set down, a sign of life tended, not styled. This is the charm of the rustic ladder garden. It doesn't try to impress, only to offer comfort. A small vertical oasis that reminds us that beauty doesn't have to be perfect. It can be uneven. It can be built with what's already there. If you have an old ladder tucked away in a garage or shed, don't see it as a relic. See it as a frame for growth, for creativity, for the humble joy of nurturing life. Give it a place in the garden, and let it hold flowers instead of footsteps. Because in a world rushing upward, sometimes the most beautiful climbs are the ones that simply help things grow. (15) Will Flame Patio Pit. There's something timeless about fire. The way it gathers people. The way it dances, crackles, and glows like an old song rediscovered on vinyl. And here, in the soft hush of an evening garden, a wheel once made for motion finds stillness, repurposed not for roads, but for warmth. In the heart of a backyard, a simple car rim, silvered with years and softly rusted, now cradles glowing embers. Bricks circle it like friends, forming a gentle boundary, not to confine the fire, but to welcome it. Marshmallows rest patiently on long twigs, waiting their turn to brown in the flickering flame. You can almost hear the laughter echo in the background. Another sits boldly painted, bright in red and yellow, a joyful drum of fire atop pebbled ground. Its colors dance with the heat, not perfect, but alive, chipped by the elements, kissed by soot. That's the beauty of using what once was discarded. It's honest. There's no need to hide the marks of age. They are part of the story. And then, as twilight settles in like a cozy sweater, two stacked rims burn quietly under the open sky. The fire within glows steady and sure. Folding chairs surround it, mismatched, inviting. Blankets drape casually, the scene untouched by styling, just life. Flames mirror in the curved metal like a heartbeat, and all around it, the quiet hum of comfort grows. You don't need a professional fire pit. You need a retired wheel, a circle of trust, and a willingness to slow down. Use gravel or bricks to secure the base. Let the firewood be dry, and the moments unplanned. Paint your rim if you wish, or let it rust in peace. There is no right way, only your way. So if you have an old rim lying around, perhaps it's not junk after all. Maybe, just maybe, it's your next gathering spot. Where stories are shared, silence is sacred, and hands are warmed not just by flame, but by presence. (16) Draw a bloom tiered stand. Sometimes, the most beautiful gardens begin not with grand plans, but with a drawer pulled from the past. In the quiet of a backyard corner, where the shadows of leaves dance gently on siding and soil, an unexpected bloom takes shape. These aren't ordinary flower beds. They are stories retold in strokes of color and the bloom of petal. What was once a dresser, perhaps worn by time and memory, has been transformed into a tiered tower of life. Coated lovingly in soft sky blue, 3 drawers now stand at attention, tilted just enough to let zinnias, geraniums, and begonias spill forward in joyful disarray. Each drawer, slightly chipped and showing the grain of its former life, is no longer hidden behind a wardrobe door. It is proud and present, filled not with clothes, but with color. Nearby, a galvanized watering can leans into the scene like a seasoned companion. A coiled green hose rests lazily in the background, tools of care that speak of morning rituals and evening quiet. Sunlight brushes across the petals, highlighting pinks, oranges, and soft reds like a painter's final touch on canvas. The charm here lies not in perfection, but in the authenticity. Brush strokes are still visible on the drawers, the knobs remain intact, and a little soil tumbles over the sides, a reminder that beauty is often found in the small messes of growth. If you've ever wondered what to do with an old chest or lonely drawer, let this image be your answer. Paint it, prop it, plant it. Let your creativity spill out like a bloom that refuses to be forgotten. This is where design meets soul, and where even the most unassuming drawer becomes a stage for nature's daily performance. (17) Fence frame flower trellis. In a quiet garden corner, where morning light melts slowly over earth and leaves, something simple takes root and transforms. What once was a piece of discarded wire fencing, rusting, forgotten, curved at the edges, now stands tall with purpose, reborn as a trellis. In the first glimpse, we see a handmade support stretched between wooden posts. It's not pristine, and that's its charm. The sunlight flickers through it, warming the pink petals of bougainvillea that climb with quiet confidence. Their papery blooms flutter like whispers in the breeze, anchored by the grid of steel. This is a structure anyone can build. Wire fencing, a couple of posts, and a vision of growth. A project for a weekend, a reward that blooms for seasons. Then there's the wall-mounted corner trellis, where metal fencing meets warm brick. Morning glories spiral upward, chasing light with every tender reach. Honeysuckle clings too, blooming with sweet defiance. The vines don't mind that the trellis is made from chain link or old wire. All they need is support. You can still see the zip ties, the handmade hooks, the raw ends of repurposed mesh. That imperfection is what makes it so beautifully real. And finally, an aged iron grid rests against a whitewashed wall, acting like a frame for nature's painting. Scarlet roses stretch across it like flames, tangled and bold. Yellow blooms peek out between the rust and welds, vibrant against the iron's wear. It's not just structure, it's story. of metal once used to divide or contain, now nurturing, lifting, allowing life to rise. These wire fence trellises are more than plant supports. They're proof that elegance doesn't need newness. That beauty can be bent, rusted, or even mismatched. If you have old fencing tucked away or spot one left at the curb, don't see waste. See a vertical garden waiting to bloom. With a little care and imagination, even the harshest materials can cradle something soft and wild. '18. Kitchen Bloom Pot Parade. Sometimes, the most unexpected vessels carry the most beautiful life. Once hidden at the back of dusty cupboards, these old enamel pots and saucepans have now found their voice, not in the kitchen, but in the garden, where the morning light spills over leaves instead of ladles. Each container tells a different story. One, perhaps, held stews on quiet rainy nights, now overflowing with peppermint and lemon balm, their leaves catching the sun like tiny green sails. Another, blackened at the base with the memories of burnt rice or hearty soups, now boasts petunias, radiant, unapologetic, and joyfully loud in their bloom. And that old skillet on the fence? Once battered by fire, it now embraces begonias with surprising gentleness. The petals soften the edges of iron, proof that even the roughest histories can cradle beauty when given the chance. This is the charm of garden upcycling. It's not about perfection. It's about resurrection. The brush strokes on those cheerful yellow and coral pans are uneven, but they're alive. The chipped handles? They only add character. And the drainage holes drilled into their bases are like new heartbeats, allowing roots to breathe and bloom. If you're wondering whether you too can turn an old saucepan into a sanctuary for thyme or pansies, the answer is always yes. Because the garden doesn't ask for perfection, only for purpose. And maybe a little love. So next time you think of tossing that scratched pot or lopsided kettle, pause. Hold it to the light. Imagine it filled not with food, but with flowers. And let your backyard table become not just a place to rest a drink, but a small celebration of color, scent, and second chances. '19. Jar Glow Path Lanterns. As dusk tiptoes gently over the garden, something magical begins to unfold, not in grand fireworks, but in the quiet whisper of light flickering inside jars. In a world that often chases perfection, there's something soulfully grounding about old mason jars that have lived another life, perhaps once filled with preserves, spices, or forgotten trinkets. Now, they glow with new purpose, lining garden paths and tree branches, casting soft halos onto the earth like stardust in glass. On a rustic step, one sits alone. A citronella candle, golden and viscous, wards off the summer buzz with a quiet burn. Its flame dances against the glass, shadows curling around the wick. There's even a blemish, a few tiny insects trapped in wax, but nothing here is curated. This isn't a catalog spread. It's real. And that's why it matters. A little further down, suspended like forest fireflies, jars sway from a branch, twinkling with solar string lights hidden inside. As night falls, they begin to rival the stars. Their glow is gentle, not dazzling, and the imperfections in the glass, the fog, the dust, the droplets, scatter the light in charming disarray. And along the gravel walkway, a trail of flame-filled jars quietly accompanies your footsteps. You don't need fancy lanterns or store-bought decor. Just leftover jars, a few candles, and an invitation to slow down. The beauty of this idea is in its simplicity, its willingness to make use of what already exists. It's about turning the mundane into memory, about transforming the glass you were going to toss into something that lights your way back home. So, gather your empty jars. Don't clean them too perfectly. Let them tell their stories. Fill them with candles or twinkle lights. Hang them from branches or place them on the ground. Let them burn beside you as the night deepens, reminding you that light, even the humblest kind, can feel like a miracle when it's born from your own hands. Color tabletop plant spot. In the dappled light of late morning, where shadows dance softly on blades of grass, a once-forgotten table stands bright again, renewed in a coat of sky blue. It hums quietly against the green, like a song only a garden can hear. Its round top holds no stacks of books nor teacups anymore, but instead, it carries life. 3 cheerful pots of succulents and blooms, their colors popping playfully like whispers of spring. The surface is far from perfect. Brush marks are still visible, as if the hands that painted it poured more care than skill. But that's what makes it beautiful. A garden isn't meant to be flawless, it's meant to be felt. This little table does more than display plants, it becomes a stage. A stage where light performs in ripples and leaves flutter applause with each breeze. If you have an old table sitting quietly in the corner of your home, waiting, don't discard it. Invite it outside. Let it be kissed by sunlight and sprinkled with soil. Paint it bold, or let it weather naturally. And atop it, place your joy, potted, rooted, growing. Because sometimes, the smallest corner can become the most enchanting part of a garden. All it takes is a table, a little color, and a love for things that bloom. Floral tire swing charm. There's a gentle kind of magic that happens when something once forgotten finds a second life under the open sky. In this quiet garden corner, old tires, once spinning down long, dusty roads, now sway gently with the breeze, cradling bursts of color instead of rubbered treads. What once carried the weight of journeys now lifts joy in its purest form. Flowers in bloom, dancing in morning light. The first scene catches your eye like a cheerful whisper. A tire, lovingly painted sky blue, hangs midair like a floating garden basket. It's not polished or perfect. The chipped edges and rope knots tell you this was made by hand, with heart. Out of the tire's hollow bloom a chorus of purple petunias and trailing ivy. They spill and trail like poetry in motion, bathed in sun rays that pierce through the leaves above. The imperfection is its charm, that very rawness that makes you smile and think, I could do this, too. Another tire rests low, nestled in the green hush of backyard grass. Its classic black rubber hasn't been painted, and it doesn't need to be. Instead, the vivid gold of marigolds glows against the contrast. Hung with chunky rope, slightly tilted as if caught mid-play, it adds a playful soul to the yard. Around it, a watering can, toy cars, little echoes of childhood. It's not just a planter, it's a memory keeper, an invitation to pause and notice the color in ordinary things. Then there's the orange and green tire, split by a bright, bold line, a DIY palette that sings out loud. Nestled inside, red, yellow, and orange blooms that rise and mingle as if in celebration. You can feel the joy in it. The way someone turns scraps into something bright, resilient, and living. It swings gently under a tree, the ropes tied firm, sturdy and proud. The garden hums around it, a space alive with laughter, bees, and little rustlings of wind. What makes this kind of garden decor truly special isn't the paint or the flowers. It's the story of reclaiming, repainting, and rooting beauty into something once overlooked. So if you have an old tire, some rope, and a splash of color, why not hang a garden from a tree? Let it bloom. Let it sway. Let your creativity leave footprints among the petals. 22. Bottle Bloom Water Wand. In a quiet patch of sunlight where the earth meets tender leaves, a simple gesture becomes poetry. Water flowing from a bottle not meant to live this long. Yet here it is, given new purpose, new dignity. The first scene, a bright blue detergent bottle. Its once commercial curves now softened by scratches and smudges of soil. Held by a steady hand, it leans forward, releasing a clear ribbon of water onto a thriving bed of basil and herbs. A garden glove rests beside it, as if pausing mid-chore, and in the background, a tin bucket gleams faintly in the noonday light. This isn't just irrigation, it's a love language between gardener and growth. Shift the view slightly, and a child's hands cradle a soda bottle, green and clouded from time, still clinging to the ghosts of its former label. With playful focus, the child tilts it gently over a pot. Droplets splash, caught in mid-air like stardust under the golden sun. This is not just play, it's participation. A small act that waters both plants and wonder. Up close, you see the imperfections. The uneven cut of a cap, the droplets trailing down a reused surface, the fingerprints of real life etched on plastic. And yet, in these imperfections lies the story, a reminder that gardening doesn't demand perfection, only care and creativity. Turning discarded bottles into water wands may not seem like much, but each one tells us, beauty doesn't come from what things were, it comes from what we choose to make them next. So next time you finish a drink or empty a bottle of soap, pause before the bin. In your hands might be the wand that turns waste into nurture, one pour at a time. "23. Can light garden glow?" As twilight begins its gentle descent upon the garden, something extraordinary comes to life, not from a store shelf, but from the humble heart of reuse. Look closely and you'll see them. Lanterns not born in glass factories, but reborn from the rust and rattle of forgotten tin cans. These little vessels, once home to beans or peaches, have shed their past and been pierced with delicate constellations. With just a simple nail and a moment of mindfulness, each one now cradles a soft flame that dances through starlit holes, casting scattered light upon the garden wall, like memories flickering back into focus. Some are painted in playful tones, turquoise, lemon, coral pink, each shade catching the last golden hints of sun before giving way to the hush of dusk. Others remain bare, their weathered metal worn with story, their imperfections untouched but embraced. Wax drips trail down their insides like traces of time, and the scent of slow-burning candles merges with the evening air. To craft one is to slow down. Fill the can with water and freeze it first. That's the trick to punching holes without warping its shape. Let the pattern be guided not by precision, but by joy. Maybe stars, maybe swirls. There's no wrong choice when the light is sincere. Hung from trellises, strung beneath branches, or lining stone paths. These handmade lights do more than glow. They remind us that beauty is often found in the things we almost threw away. Let your garden breathe in this quiet light. And in doing so, let your creativity, too, be uncontained. '24. Sunshine Door Floral Frame. Not every door leads to a room. Some, like these, open into imagination. Tucked in the hush of a blooming garden, an old door finds new purpose. Once it separated rooms or stood quietly at the end of a hallway, now it becomes a backdrop for blossoms and memories. Painted in cheerful, sun-warmed yellow, its panels echo with history. Time has left its signature on the surface, chipped edges, faded corners, and a weathered doorknob that still holds its place proudly. The first image speaks of rebirth. Leaning against a brick wall, marigolds burst with golden energy at its base while ivy tiptoes up one side like a quiet companion. Around it, everyday garden tools wait in the wings, grounding the scene in reality. A reminder that beauty often emerges in the middle of work. Further along, another reclaimed door stands freely in the landscape. Its panels have been lovingly hand-painted with green vines, curling playfully around the frame like nature reclaiming space. Bricks keep it anchored in the soft soil, and the evening sun wraps the whole moment in amber light. It doesn't function as a door anymore. Now it's a whimsical garden portal, guiding eyes and hearts rather than footsteps. And then there is the most enchanted version of all, the door embraced by roses. Climbing, swirling, thriving. Soft pink blooms lean into the yellow frame as if whispering secrets from the past. Petals have fallen gently on the earth below, as if time itself paused to admire the scene. It feels like stepping into a storybook, yet the materials are simple. Just paint, patience, and love for things forgotten. To recreate this charm at home, seek out an old door from a salvage yard or a flea market. No need for perfection. In fact, the more weathered, the better. It holds stories in its cracks. Paint it a bright color that lifts your spirit. Let climbing plants like ivy, roses, or sweet peas dance around it. Prop it against a wall, or stake it upright with bricks or wooden posts. Add a few personal flourishes, a quote, hand-drawn vines, or a hanging lantern. Because sometimes, the most magical garden features are born not from what you buy, but from what you choose to believe in again. '25. Chair Bloom Garden Seat. There's something quietly poetic about giving new purpose to things once forgotten. In a quiet corner of the garden, under the embrace of golden morning light, an old iron chair, once weary and worn, now proudly carries life again. Vines spill gently over its arms like sleeves of a gardener too busy with joy to notice the mess. Rust and patina are no longer flaws, but badges of time past and beauty rediscovered. A few steps further, nestled in a patch of bare soil, stands a wooden chair dressed in a cracked coat of white. Once part of a kitchen set, perhaps where stories and tea were once shared, it now blooms with vibrant pansies. Purple faces turn toward the sky, and above them, a small birdhouse clings to the backrest, like a whisper of welcome to feathered friends. Here, in its stillness, the chair becomes a sanctuary for both root and wing. Then comes the flash of royal blue, bold, bright, and delightfully out of place among browns and greens. The paint is chipped, the legs uneven. Moss gathers beneath it like a shawl laid across its lap. A bowl of ferns spills from where a cushion once sat, leaves arching in all directions like laughter frozen in motion. The whole scene feels like a child's daydream, unfiltered, free, and full of wonder. If you have a chair too old to sit on, don't throw it away. Let it sit in the sun, in the soil. Give it a second life cradling flowers instead of people. This isn't just decor, it's storytelling with roots. A humble seat turned into a bloom of personality and purpose. Would you try turning your old chair into something that lives and breathes beauty again? (26) Patchwork Jeans Pot Cozy. Sometimes, the most comforting kind of beauty is born not from perfection, but from familiarity. Imagine this: a pair of jeans once worn on summer walks, repurposed into a planter wrap. Its faded seams now hugging a terracotta pot. Its stitching still sturdy despite frays that whisper stories of years gone by. The orange zigzag thread dances joyfully around the rim, catching the sunlight just right, as if denim could glow. Each of these pots carries a tale. One wears buttons like badges of honor, another sports cheerful patches, a smiley, a butterfly, sewn on with care, not to impress, but to preserve. And in the middle of it all, real soil, real roots, real life. These are not just covers for pots. They are quiet declarations that creativity doesn't require new things, only a new way of seeing. That a pair of old jeans, rather than being discarded, can cradle green life once more. Their worn texture now softened by sunshine, moisture, and blossoms. They sit on benches like dear old friends, surrounded by watering cans, fallen petals, and gloved hands that tend to gardens and dreams alike. So if you've ever tucked away an old pair of jeans, perhaps stained or torn, let them live again. Not as clothes, but as cozy plant companions. Cut, wrap, stitch, smile. There's no one right way, only your way. That's the charm of DIY. And when the morning sun pours through your window or dances across your backyard, you might notice how the denim catches light like memory itself. Imperfect, faded, but deeply, undeniably alive. (27) Glow Jar Patio Lights. In the hush of evening, when the sun folds behind garden trees and dusk lays itself gently across stone patios, there is a kind of magic that flickers to life, not from the stars, but from jars once forgotten in cupboards and shelves. Old mason jars, once home to preserves or pickles, are given new purpose here, transformed into vessels of quiet light. Inside them, flames dance steadily on orange and yellow wax, their glow reflecting against time-worn glass etched with fingerprints, memories, and little imperfections. Some jars still wear their lids, now resting beside them like sleepy companions on the ground. Wax has dribbled down the sides, dried in rivulets, beautiful in its messiness. Strung above, others dangle like fireflies caught in stillness. Tied with coarse twine beneath pergola beams, each jar cradles a gentle candle, or perhaps a faux flicker, surrounded by dried petals or a handful of sand. Some tilt slightly, imperfect and charming, swaying with the breeze as if whispering stories of summers past. The light isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It glows with a kind of quiet pride, casting long shadows across leaf-strewn bricks and worn wooden slats. And perhaps, that's the best kind of light, not blinding, but beckoning. This is a DIY you don't need perfection to start. A few old jars, a bit of twine, and candles, real or battery-operated, are enough. You don't need a sprawling garden. Even a small balcony or stoop can carry this softness. Because upcycling isn't about recreating a magazine cover. It's about rediscovering what's already in your hands and turning the ordinary into something quietly extraordinary. '28. Petal Frame Flower Lift. In a quiet corner of the garden, where sunlight pools gently on dewy leaves, something unexpected catches the eye. Not new, not polished, but certainly alive with story. An old bicycle wheel leans against a tree stump, its spokes no longer rushing through wind but now embracing a slower rhythm. Rust paints its surface like history etched in copper, and winding through the metal, a soft surge of green vines, crowned with blushing clematis blossoms. The ground below is raw and real, scattered with pebbles, fallen leaves, and the shy roots of time. This isn't staged beauty, it's authenticity. And it whispers to us, nothing is ever too far gone to be reborn. Just a few feet away, a wheel of a different voice spins its tale. It's been painted sunshine yellow, suspended under the beams of a wooden pergola, catching golden hour light like a sundial of dreams. The vines haven't fully climbed yet, but that's the point. It's in progress. And like any garden, like any life, the magic lies in becoming. If you ever find an old bike wheel in a shed or at a thrift sale, give it this chance. Sand it, paint it, or leave it raw and rusted. Let it carry blooms, not burdens. And then, the third, a simple, white wheel, leaned gracefully against a weather-worn fence. Morning glories thread through its spokes as if nature herself is stitching an embroidery of purple and green. Some of the paint has chipped, but that only adds character. The wheel no longer moves across pavement, but now it stands still, and in stillness, it blooms. Here's the takeaway, friend. Beauty doesn't always come in new packaging. Sometimes, the most striking garden art begins with what others might call waste. Old wheels, forgotten frames, they become something more in your hands. Not just decor, but memory, movement, growth. So next time you're clearing out a garage, pause before you toss. With a little care, even a bent bicycle wheel can become a pedestal of petals and poetry. '29. Pallet Frame Mini Pond Edging. In the quiet rhythm of nature, sometimes it's the humblest elements that sing the most beautiful tunes. Here, where wild grass meets wood and water reflects the sky, a garden pond framed by reclaimed pallet boards becomes more than just a structure. It becomes a soul-soothing sanctuary. Each board, weathered by time and softened by the sun, speaks of a second life, once forgotten, now reborn. There's no perfection here, just honest grain, rusty nails, mossy edges, and the soft murmur of water beneath the lily pads. The first pond rests in a confident octagon, its form strong and geometric, yet softened by the rippling life inside. Pebbles scatter like thoughts around the edge. A ceramic frog gazes outward, unmoved, as if guarding dreams floating beneath the surface. Here's a practical secret. Stacking pallets not only gives height but also creates natural seating, ideal for sipping tea at sunset, watching the dragonflies. Next, tucked in a corner kissed by shadow and sunlight, a green-painted pallet pond peeks through a chaos of greenery. A plastic scoop leans nearby, forgotten mid-task. Tools rest against the fence, not staged, just paused. This pond tells the truth of gardening. Muddy knees, morning dew, spontaneous joy. A simple liner, a few planks, and still, magic is born. You don't need a blueprint, only intent. The last frame is square and low, minimal in its ambition but peaceful in presence. Clear reflections shimmer as lily leaves drift aimlessly. There's no ornamental clutter, just water, wood, and the echo of stillness. The pallets, worn but sturdy, whisper of transport trucks and factory floors now turned peaceful keepers of pond life. Here's a small but golden tip. Seal gaps from within and line deeply. Pond liners do wonders in simplicity. And that's the quiet power of upcycling. It's not just about reusing old wood. It's about renewing our connection to the land and slowing down enough to see beauty where it's been overlooked. These DIY pallet ponds won't ask you to be perfect. Just willing. Just present. And with a few humble boards and a weekend of care, your garden, too, can hold still water and wildlife. A place where old wood meets new beginnings. Would you like a similar narration for the previous decor sets like the candle jars or denim pots next? Fractured reflection pot art. In a quiet corner of the garden, where wild vines curl like whispers and the sun filters through branches in golden threads, an old bicycle will find a new rhythm. Once built for motion, now it rests, still and serene, becoming something far more poetic. Leaning gently against a time-worn stump, its rusted spokes hold a delicate tangle of clematis vines. The flowers bloom freely, uncaring of the wheel's age or corrosion. Their petals catch the light like confetti, and the scene feels less like discarded metal, more like a story left open, paused at a chapter about stillness and softness and second chances. Elsewhere in the garden, another wheel hangs from a wooden pergola beam, painted a cheerful yellow. It spins slightly in the breeze, like a sundial marking slow hours, as tender tendrils stretch their way across the spokes. It's imperfect, a little bent here, a chip there, and yet it belongs so perfectly to the setting. Here, the charm lies not in flawlessness, but in the way light and leaf dance through what once rolled across a forgotten road. And near a fence, a white painted wheel stands as a canvas. Morning glories weave through it, threading themselves like embroidery, binding flower to frame in a gentle embrace. The paint chips, rust creeps in the corners, but beauty finds its way, climbing, blooming, enduring. What makes this upcycle project so inviting is how easily it welcomes imperfection. You don't need symmetry, you don't need a plan, just an old wheel, a patch of sun, and a plant with a will to climb. So if you have a forgotten bicycle gathering dust, don't part with it just yet. Let it tell a new story, one that doesn't race, but rests. One that offers a hand to the flowers and says, "Here, grow with me." Boot Bloom Vertical Herb Garden. Sometimes, beauty sprouts from the most unexpected places, not from pristine pots or polished ceramic, but from the weary tread of old rubber boots. Once guardians of puddles and muddy trails, these well-worn boots now find themselves reborn on garden fences and trellises, holding not weary feet, but fragrant life. In the soft hush of early morning light, a row of mudded green boots hangs like quiet sentinels on a wooden trellis. Basil, thyme, and oregano burst from their open tops, reaching toward the sun with the same courage those boots once braved rainy days. Their muddy soles tell stories of seasons past, and now, anchored with soil, they tell new ones, tales of growth and quiet transformation. A little farther along, a mosaic of black and yellow boots, cracked and faded, lines the warmth of a brick wall. Time has left its fingerprints, scuffed toes, peeling edges, yet within each rests a thriving bouquet of parsley and oregano. Even the one that leans askew seems to whisper, "I'm still useful." The imperfections, far from flaws, make them feel like old friends rediscovered. Then, a rainbow parade of children's rain boots dances along a wooden fence. Red, blue, green, yellow, and violet, each blooming with herbs like rosemary and mint. Mismatched and joyful, they bring color and character, their scuffed surfaces glinting in the sun. They remind us that gardening need not be precise. It can be playful, resourceful, and personal. The practical magic lies in the simplicity. Punch a few holes for drainage, pack them with rich soil, and let nature do the rest. The boots hold more than herbs. They cradle hope, scent, and the joy of giving objects a second chance. In doing so, they lift the spirit of the garden skyward, one fragrant sprig at a time. So next time you look at an old pair of boots, don't see what's broken. See the blooms waiting to be born. (32) Iron garden arch from old bed frame. In the stillness of early evening, when sunlight leans low and golden across a quiet backyard, you might stumble upon something unexpected, something tenderly reborn. Not a gate to a grand estate, but the arched frame of an old iron bed, now dreaming new dreams under an open sky. Rust blooms where paint once stood proud. Vines curl around the bars like whispered secrets, threading themselves through time-worn iron. One would never guess this humble arch once cradled sleep. Now, it cradles roses, jasmine, and the flutter of soft petals carried on the breeze. This is not just repurposing, it is remembrance. Look closely at the details. The bolts and welds, once hidden beneath sheets, now shine in the sunlight. The ivy doesn't mind the chipped metal. In fact, it seems to hold it closer. Hung between the spindles, strings of simple bulbs sway gently, like stars waiting for nightfall. When dusk comes, the lights flicker to life, casting not just illumination, but atmosphere, like a lullaby for the garden. Creating an archway like this is not a task of perfection. Let the frame be bent. Let it wear its rust. Let it whisper stories of the people who once rested upon it. You don't need a pristine structure to welcome beauty. You only need a bit of soil, a few seeds, and time. For those with old bed frames forgotten in the shed or tucked behind the garage, this is a gentle invitation. Bring them out, not as furniture, but as memory holders for your greenest dreams. Anchor them firmly in the earth. Encourage climbing plants to reach for the sky. Watch how nature softens steel, and how something once meant to enclose can now open a space to magic. In this garden, the past and the present meet in the shade of blossoms and rust. And what a beautiful place that is to walk through. (33) Vintage wire basket hanging planter. There's something nostalgic about wire baskets, those simple, looping frames that once held fruit or clothespins, now suspended like lanterns of life beneath the beams of a garden pergola. Here, in the hush of a blooming backyard, they've taken on a new rhythm. These weathered frames, bent with time, kissed with rust, are no longer forgotten. Instead, they cradle color. Bursts of pansies, trailing ivy, and blooming petunias spilling over like laughter on a summer afternoon. If you look closely, you'll find charm in imperfection. A twist in the wire, a world that's softened with age. But still, they hold, and they bloom. To make your own, you don't need perfection. Just patience. Line the inside with coconut fiber, moss, or burlap. Add soil, a few herbs or flowering plants, and let the light and breeze do the rest. Some dangle from a simple hook, catching morning sun. Others stack like garden chandeliers, tier upon tier, swaying gently in the wind. A floating vertical garden, effortless and elegant. Even the smallest basket, balanced by twine, tells a story of transformation, of use made beautiful once again. And when dusk comes, and golden light catches each petal, each leaf, you'll see how these once ordinary objects now glow with a purpose reborn. Upcycling doesn't just give life to old things, it brings stillness to the soul. An invitation to slow down, create with intention, and let your garden speak in gentle, blooming whispers. (34) Stacked Drawer Wall Planter. Sometimes, the past comes knocking, not with loud footsteps, but with the quiet creak of an old wooden drawer. Forgotten, perhaps. Unused, certainly. But in the gentle hands of a dreamer, even an abandoned drawer can bloom again. In the sun-drenched corner of a humble balcony, once lifeless drawers find a second story. Coated in pastel blushes, mint, cream, pale rose, they breathe life as planters, now home to cascading succulents and playful vines. Their weathered edges and chipped paint hold the marks of years gone by, and yet, they cradle new beginnings in soil and leaf. Mounted like notes on a wall, each drawer carries its own tune, a melody of nature and nostalgia. Some are tilted just slightly, imperfect like poetry, leaning into the sun. Others stand firm, holding their little green world steady. They don't just store, they shelter. Roots peek from corners, vines trail downward like whispered secrets, and the soft weight of growth presses into reclaimed timber. And indoors, too, these time-worn boxes climb like wooden steps along clean white walls. A symphony of knobs and textures, where every drawer tells its own story through its grain. Tiny herbs stretch toward the morning light that spills gently from the nearby window, catching on the edge of a handle, warming old paint, making dust dance softly in the air. What once served socks or stationery now serves sprigs of thyme, clusters of jade, or a pot of baby's tears. A transformation that asks little but gives much. A simple drill, a few screws, and a patch of patience is all it takes to craft this vertical wonder. No need for grand gestures, just intention and a touch of care. So next time you come across a lonely drawer, don't shut it away. Mount it, plant it, paint it. Let it open into something new. Because even in the most unexpected corners, beauty will always find a way to grow. If this video meant something to you, please know that subscribing means the world to me. You're not just supporting content, you're supporting a dream that keeps my family going. Thank you, truly. I'd also love to hear from you. What did you enjoy the most? Is there anything I could do better to keep inspiring or simply entertaining you? Your feedback helps this channel grow with heart and purpose. Let me know in the comments. I read every one.